some other features maybe that we rely on to power this platform. We love the ability to do multiple different ways of ingesting data. So when we first started this, we settled on the Hadoop indexer, largely because we have some Hadoop expertise here. It seemed like the easy route to go initially. And so wrap all of our indexing into a custom tool that we have, an in-house tool here that allows users to move data from their source into this platform. And so with that wrapper, we can actually hide some of the complexity of ingesting data into Druid. Right, it'll generate ingestion specs. It'll take care of mapping your time series columns and everything else. As we evolved, we found that Hadoop indexer worked great, but for small data sets, became really slow. Right? There's just too much overhead with it. It lean on the native indexer for that. Right? So for data sets that are 100,000 rows or 500,000 rows, native indexer works really, really well here. We've also expanded on the Hadoop side to Orc Ingest. Right? Some of the data sets as they lie are really ingestible. And so ingest Orc data. And of course, right, one of the powers of Hadoop is Kafka index, a real-time index. And so we're seeing more and more demand for this now. And so a lot of our data sets now are coming in the on-demand fashion. Other features, super useful to be able to inspect and pre-flight a query. So we can use some of the cardinality aggregators to tell us what a query is likely to produce. And we can do it super fast. Right? We typically can get this answer back in 10, 20, 30 milliseconds. And that allows our processing engine and our query generation engine to make some really smart decisions around how to process that query. It's super important to us that time is sort of key to everything in Druid. Almost everything of interest, almost every question that a user would ask of a data set has some time element to it. Right? What were sales last week? How many guests were in our stores in the last month? Time's super important. Other things you can do with time, you can pass in this array of intervals, and so it's in pretty much any business, period over period comparison is really, really powerful, and the fact that we can pass in an array of intervals certainly helps. Another feature we lean on, there's an arbitrary granularity extension that allows us to simulate our internal fiscal calendar. So it looks a little something like this, where you can just pass in an array of granularity intervals. And so when you want to say, summarize sales by fiscal month, Druid can do that for us. Some other key features, the metrics collection. This is super cool I think for anyone that was in the session this morning. Json showed some query tuning and optimization techniques. And one of the questions that popped up was, how do we know, right? How can we run and explain? How do we know what happened? The Druid emits some metrics that you can configure into a Kafka topic and get almost a real-time view of query performance, data ingestion statistics, overall even cluster health. Really, really valuable. Gives you tons of insight into how queries are performing. In fact, we found this so valuable, we adopted it for other parts of our stack. So our API layer, we emit the same types of events into it to be able to measure unique users, unique sort of user-led queries. It gives us tons of insight into the platform. Right? When combined with some of the other instrumentation you get out of things like a Kibana, things like a Grafana, we have all kinds of insight into how the platform's running. We lean really heavily on the Json query language. Right? At the time that a lot of this platform was stood up, this is what was available as sort of the interface to Query Druid. And it's been super powerful. It gives us a lot of ways to express some complex things. We do take advantage of some of the estimation aggregators, and count distinct is always a tough problem. And so taking advantage of things like Thetasketch, starting to get more and more into percentiles, quantiles, binning, the types of things we can do with some of the native functionality of Druid. So these are some of the key features we use. It's probably not an exhaustive list. I would imagine I missed some other super important things, but this is what we use.